What's up? This is Sean Longevity with Bringing Down the Band and New Old Heads podcast. And today I'm going to go back in time a little bit and I'm going to react to an old video and see if the conversation still holds up. A segment from back in 2019 called Does JayZ's Wealth Contribute to Him Being the GOAT?
Let's talk about Hov, man. Forbes says he became the first hip-hop billionaire. So they broke it down with his ace of spades.
Logos upon logos.
Champagne, that company, there's 310 million. They are 220 in cash and investments, 100 million in his, it's pronounced Douce, I believe is how you pronounce that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, Mike. What do you think?
Is that a cognac? I can't remember. I don't want to miss.
I have no idea. I feel like sometimes Mike just plays stupid. Like, you know it's Douce.
But
I believe it is.
It's a cognac. 100 million there. Tidal has 100 million. 75 million in Rock Nation. 75 million on his music catalog, which shows you how important that is towards the billion. His art collection,
or how little.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I took it.
Yeah, 75 million for the art collection, and then they said about 50 in real estate.
That's actually misleading because the music influenced everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm like. You know what I'm saying? Like,
this was also, I remember this. So this was right when we switched our camera from the we went from a small room and I moved everything into like one of my living rooms at my old place. I was living by myself, whatever. I put Mike and Terry on one side and me and Spools on the other side until we realized like people in the comments were having just like a field day with the fact that it was like 2 white guys on one side and 2 black guys on the other side. And like we've switched it and flipped it up after this intentionally just to get away from the goofy comments.
With the music first, but I thought this would have been Diddy or
Diddy's
Dr. Dre. They're in the area, but you know, Hov is just, he's expanded the portfolio, man. Like, it's ridiculous now for this guy to start off as just a rapper and to become an entrepreneur, CEO level, C-level guy, and just continuing to grow. Like, to me, this is crazy. Like, and Terry and I were texting about this. We're talking about Jay. To me, this is just my opinion. We've had this conversation before. I don't want to derail anything, but with this milestone, when you look at it from a cumulative standpoint, Billionaire, the catalog, rap,
the Billionaire is irrelevant to the music.
You think so?
Yes.
I'm talking about
what does Billionaire have to do with music?
Well, first of all, he started off as an artist, right? I'm not going to
start off as a D-boy. He came into the game.
There we go.
He did say 100 grand strong. What I'm saying
9
is,
to be exact.
Thank you. You listen to that out. That's what I'm talking about.
From grinding
G-Packs.
Exactly.
There we go. What I'm saying is, I don't know if I can just set to the side the fact that he became a super duper businessman after he started off as a rapper and then expanded to that. Like, to me, that's part of the story.
It's interesting. I've been on the show. Brad really started it. Shouts to Spools. Brad really started it. But I feel like on the show, I've been intentionally trying to introduce class consciousness over and over. Things like this, like money in music and stuff like that, isn't a direct reflection of somebody's skill set. Because a lot of times we see somebody as, it's just a recurring thing that I do, that I like to talk about. But just because somebody makes a lot of money or is deemed successful by a lot of people does not necessarily mean that the thing that they are doing is actually good. It just means that they're successful. So I haven't seen this in a long time, obviously, but I think that's probably where I'm going to push back a little bit. It's part of the story, but it's business and it's not music.
So I think, for me, this is just my opinion, when you take all that into consideration, how is he not the greatest?
What do you mean?
Because his catalog, we gonna do do we want to do the catalog?
So it's interesting. Mike here is like, he's a billionaire. What do you mean he's not the greatest? That was his argument. Okay.
Jay's catalog is crazy.
We can do the catalog if you want to talk about the catalog, but if you want to talk about billionaire status and all, that's irrelevant to the music, and the billionaires not the same thing.
That makes him a really good businessman, is what that makes him.
Well, to me, his influence as a businessman
It makes
will
him
be
a
felt.
tremendous capitalist. That's what it makes him.
So you don't think his influence
makes him a good musician?
No. What I'm saying is, you don't think his influence in business has influenced other business people that are coming up in hip hop at all?
Again, Mike's talking about business here. He's like, you don't think his business makes him a good businessman? Yes, but again, that has nothing to do with music, right? Again, you're talking about business.
But to me, so we just go set that to the side. Y'all want to set that to the side
What
for
I'm
his whole
saying-
story.
What I'm saying, no, it's
No,
Because
as soon as you said the greatest,
the
people are-
operative word here is cumulative. I said everything.
well,
I
people
ain't
are,
say just music.
people are multifaceted. He can be
Right.
a businessman and a great musician in one. I think he's both. But
So
I don't. But I don't think
leave it
it's.
to the side.
I don't think. Mike is like Trump. Mike has got Trump type debate style. It's just like, but what about this? What about this? It's like, calm down.
a lot of people are
It's
as
what-
good at musicians as JayZ is, but they're probably not as good at business people, and that's what this proves.
What I do with
He
bringing
did a
out,
really good job with
Yeah.
creating a brand, right, behind the music, right, or what started in the street and then became the music, and then building a brand, and then being smart enough to diversify into a whole bunch of things that ended up
Diversify
being
your
very
funds.
successful, right?
Bong, bong.
Because of that, he's smart. He's real smart
What
when
I'm
it
sa-
comes to capitalist venture and business. And yes, music is a foundation, part of the foundation of that. I would agree with that. Yeah. Does that
I
all
haven't-
that make him the greatest rapper? No.
What I'm just
I
saying
have an
is
angle on that.
everything that you just listed impact. Whoa, we all good.
That was
Everything
a big,
that
big time misfunction. We're
Every-
good though.
everything that y'all are listing to me has impacted hip hop. That's what I'm saying. That's why
again.
you.
So it seems like he's talking. So is he talking more about the culture than the music here? That's what it seems like.
Have to.
It's not.
But
This is
music
what I'll
is hip.
say.
No, music is hip hop, right? Music is hip hop. If this affects hip hop, to me that goes into the cumulative equation. That's my opinion.
Sean, did you get your
I said no.
point out?
Good.
Did you want to keep going on
No,
what you were going to say?
Thank you.
I got enough to chime in later.
Okay.
Go
All right,
ahead,
so
man.
this is what I'll say to that. I don't think him being a billionaire makes him the greatest. I think he's the greatest regardless of the billionaire status. And the reason being is the type of artist that he is. I mean, he's been talking about doing this since the very beginning.
Facts.
And he stayed consistent. When you talk about genius levels of being able to do shit, he definitely, I think, fits that cloth because he can literally go in the studio, listen to a beat, write the song in his head, go in there and lay that shit down.
Yeah. And all this is what Terry's speaking on right now is why you can make the argument for why JayZ is one of the greatest of all time. The fact that JayZ also accumulated a lot of material success is related to the fact that he's a good businessman. 𝗕𝗥𝗓𝗪 was successful. Are we going to have the argument that 𝗕𝗥𝗓𝗪 is one of the greatest of all times? Because he was very clever in what he did. Are we going to make the argument that anybody that garners a lot of money in a music space is good at music? No. That's understanding that some people treat music as a hustle and as a business, and some people look at it as art. Some people do both. Most people do both. But a lot of people look at it as a business first type of mindset, and is an art. And if we're going to critique things based upon the artistic merit of it, then we need to critique it on the artistic merit. We need to stop valuing art from a monetary and business capitalist perspective, because just because something sells does not mean that it's good art. And that's the fundamental problem with factoring in the fact that JayZ is successful as a capitalist, as a business person, when we are talking about his music. Right.
And he does the shit with ease, like as far as creating these dope monuments in hip hop that have transcended. Like, he literally sets trends or set trends every time he came out and did something. So he's kind of responsible to why it's cool to wear that jersey you have on.
Okay.
I mean, even though you're a Cubs fan, you're not necessarily wearing it for that. But I'm saying that's just one of the many facets that he did.
Right.
The jerseys, the hat cock, the
And that goes into the culture
button
aspect
ups.
of
Yeah,
everything.
culturally. That's why he could never be a fucking culture vulture. He is the culture.
Well, yeah. I guess technically. Yeah, I guess that is truth. But I think anybody can vulture off of a culture, even if you're a part of it. It just depends on what type of actions you're partaking in. JayZ could tomorrow start an interview show just like DJ Vlad or Adam 22, and all of a sudden then he's doing that. Just because he's a part of it doesn't mean that he can't extract wealth from it and send it elsewhere. you know.
Man,
And there we are.
And there we go.
Wearing button ups. You know, he made people start switching their style up to kind of fit what he's talking about because his style grew with him.
Yeah.
He didn't stay. You know how we always talk about artists that sit there and talk about the same shit over and over and over. Mm-hmm. He constantly evolved, stepped up this game on every single release, and it showed growth. He dropped an album called The Blueprint, which, I mean, KRS-One did it prior to that, but still, I mean, he's literally took hip-hop, the culture, and ran with it and made some of it.
He did.
And he's a fucking billionaire for it.
And I think all of that is definitely very respectable. He is a very good capitalist. You know, he understood and he was able to create a lot out of nothing, really. I mean, kind of. I mean, he did make a lot of money, like Terry said, in the streets before he brought everything in, but that still came from almost nothing. You know what I mean? So, you know, there's respect to be given from one plane, but I think we have to be very careful about towing that line of we're at a place right now where people already devalue music, and this just further, in my opinion, further devalues it when you look at it through this lens.
And like I said, I don't think the billionaire makes him the greatest. That's just the icing on the cake.
Maybe I said it
That's
wrong.
fair.
And the icing on the cake. That's fine. I'm with that. I ain't mad at that. Spools, jump in.
I just want to say good for JayZ, man.
Yeah. It's big.
It's awesome.
I think you have more to say.
We
floor is
don't
yours,
have
brother.
enough damn time.
Yeah, we do.
You can
Let me ask you this, man.
5 or 6 minutes.
If an MC came out, so let's take Rakim, right? I don't know what Rakim's up to these days, but let's say Rakim, let's talk about KRS-One, maybe, for example.
I love KRS-One.
I'm a teacher. I want to be a teacher. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher.
Yep.
Right? And he raps about it for a long time, and he's really, really good at it. And he's really good at rapping about being a teacher. And then he goes and he becomes a teacher.
Yeah.
Is that not as successful as rapping about making $1 billion your whole life and going and making $1 billion?
Preach.
Why? That's our culture, guys. This is our society.
point.
This is what we value as a society.
Yeah.
I am not
That's
hating on JayZ having $1 billion.
Yeah.
It is something that societally we value more than a lot of other things. That's
Touché.
all I'm going to say.
Touche.
I wouldn't say that necessarily. So he does.
I think Brad killed it, right? I think he knocked it out the park right there. We do. And I think it's even more so. I think for a long time, we just didn't want to believe us. And I say we, I mean us and hip hop. Hip hop doesn't want to believe that somebody like JayZ is a part of something that is kind of at odds with the nature of its foundation. And when I say the nature of its foundation, I mean like some of the principles that it was built upon. And the principles does not necessarily mean that everybody needs to be broke or anything like that, but it's just this built out of extreme class warfare and the stuff that happened in the 80s, and celebrating JayZ, who is the modern day equivalent to like a Wall Street bro in the 80s. You know, I
Rap about that. He also raps about empowerment. He raps
sometimes
about entrepreneurship. He raps about owning your shit. I don't see anything wrong with that.
But I think what Spools is saying is that, sure, he said that that's what he wanted to do early on, and then he accomplished it. He had this huge goal of doing all these things. So maybe the scale was bigger than being a teacher, right? I guess maybe we could say that. But if I come out and do the same thing, I could be like, yeah, I want to do these things, and then I accomplish them. Well, I'm doing what I said I was going to do as well. So it's kind of hard to... I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and a lot of what Terry just mentioned were capitalist financial ventures.
For sure.
That is what we value in this country. And yes, he did achieve those. And yes, that's incredible. Having goals and achieving them is great.
Yeah.
You know, that's fantastic.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's not capitalist, right? It doesn't mean that it's not. Shouts to Brad, because Brad was on this way before I was. And Brad was even at this stage, like I said, Brad kind of walked so I could run on these conversational pieces on this show. You know what I mean? Like he brought him up, didn't beat him into the ground too heavy. You know, even there you saw like he wasn't even going to say anything. But
Fantastic. I just don't think we place the same importance or value of importance on other
that's
types of things.
That's a great point.
I've never heard it. Yeah,
that could be equal. That could be important as well. We just don't.
But I don't think he's doing it in a way that's.
Don't say not flaunting it. I don't want to hear that.
I mean, he
detrimental.
He called
maybe?
himself Big Willie. That's flaunting.
Yeah.
I'm not really tripping about him flaunting. Hip hop in general has been about boasting and bragging since the very beginning. He just pretty much took this shit to another level. I mean, it just is what it is.
And he's been around since. I mean,
early.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a bad influence as far as how he did it at all. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't say that.
In the world we live in and everything.
I mean, because
for sure.
I mean,
absolutely.
we can say we place importance on being capitalist and having money and being able to have things and things of that nature. But
I think too, what this is kind of highlighting early on is like Brad is showcasing right here that he has just a much higher understanding of the way capitalism impacts society than anybody else at the table right now, and including myself. And just because you have money doesn't mean that like capitalism, it doesn't mean that you don't have money. You know, capitalism doesn't mean that you don't own businesses. Capitalism doesn't mean that, or being anti-capitalist, I guess I should say, doesn't mean those things. Capitalism is just the highly exploitative nature of a few people holding all the wealth, and you can't hold that much wealth without a high level of exploitation. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily a bad person on an individualist basis, but you can't be a billionaire without exploiting. And the fact that JayZ is one of the first people to do this, again, like I said before, I feel like people in hip hop that grew up with hip hop, we in general have a hard time with the class consciousness options when somebody from that under tier reaches what quote unquote that rich, wealthy white class has historically owned. And it almost, I think it almost feels from one perspective, it's like, oh, now that a black person has reached that, we want to be critical of it. And that's not the piece. The piece is that we should always be critical of anybody who reaches said point, and that does not make them better. It just means that they are really good at understanding how to operate in the business world specifically. But it's very easy to look at this and be like, we're being critical of JayZ for being successful against his odds, but that's not necessarily the case. That doesn't factor into him being great at music. And we're not going to give him accolades beyond. It's like when you want to stack up accolades for JayZ now, like, because he came from, again, I don't believe in meritocracy. That's what that is. But we're giving him more accolades and more things, and we're stacking them on because of where he comes from a little bit. And it doesn't make him better. Like, he's not the okay billionaire. There's not such a thing.
Do you think that's a fair
As a young man that came and was born in the projects and was part of the dope game, transcended that into what he is now, one of the most sought after business people in general, not even just in rap. I mean, that speaks volumes to me.
I'm not taking anything away from JayZ
I'm not saying
having $1 billion or coming from a lot of people. That what you just described, a lot of people have come from that and done really, really great things that we just don't celebrate as much as him becoming a billionaire. That's the only point that I was trying to make.
It's like where we place the onus of success on. It's like JayZ is more successful because his goal was to make more money. But if your goal is to not be a billionaire and make all this money, your goal is just to be successful in the thing that you want to do. The argument is that is just as successful. It's just that we're not looking at it through the lens of, I need to accumulate all of this capital for this, and I'm not going to be exploitative through this. So you can make the argument that making a lot less money is actually more successful. But that's a whole nother conversation.
A lot of people have come from worse circumstances than what he has come from and don't get celebrated for the things that they contribute in the same way that someone gets celebrated for becoming a billionaire.
And that's interesting, though.
That's all I'm saying, man.
That's interesting because that brings up the conversation of impact.
Yeah.
And what exactly impact is. You know, what is the impact of a JayZ versus the impact of for your example, like a teacher? You know what I mean? What are the levels of impact on society? And because then we're looking at the bigger picture of the realm of everything, right?
Yeah. What I'm describing is just my personal distaste at times with our society and what we value. That was what I was expressing there. Yeah. It's not personal against JayZ. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, that's great for him, man. Seriously, like, he's got this vision, and he has all you need to be able to be awesome at business.
It's awesome to kind of like look at myself from this lens. It's always embarrassing to go back and look at your old self, but like kind of know where I was in my growth of understanding all of this stuff at this time. Because I've mentioned many times on the show that I come from a background of very conservative household. I went through lots of deconstruction, unlearning, if you will, relearning throughout the course of my life. And this was definitely a phase in my life where I was learning a lot more about class consciousness, and not just on a surface level, but a deep level. And me looking at how I'm responding to the conversation that Brad's having right now, it's kind of cool to see like how far that I've grown from there to now, because I'm looking at this and it's kind of embarrassing. Like, because I'm not even really fully picking up on what Brad is saying here. Like, I understand it to a degree, but not really.
And he built something awesome. Like, that's great.
But the culture and the society as a whole, what we value, that's your...
Yeah.
Just, I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, Sean.
No, it's good. It's like, never mind.
That's...
I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, or if
one.
it's just... I mean, I don't know. Just
I respect it. You know, yeah, that's a good take. I respect that.
Thing. You know, and again, it's more my...
It goes all the way into to what America is and how much we devalue teachers and stuff like that in general.
Yeah. And I hate to pick, I really hate of all people to pick on JayZ. There are a billion other people.
It's not really picking on them though. It's just stating what
that
it is.
Have done,
it speaks more about us.
So there's a good book called, I haven't had the chance to finish it all. I was just talking about it over the weekend, called Catch-22.
Okay.
It's a classic book. Most people have read it or should read it if you haven't. And they make this comment. It just has all this very subtle, weird humor in it. And they're describing a character and describing a character's father and how everybody likes this character's father or whatever. And he makes the comment, it's like, well, Mr. Smith makes the most money on the block, so obviously he's probably the smartest person out. Right. And it's just like it's like this subtle kind of, but also comment on society about how we. That's all. That's it. It's just more of a personal thing.
I'm not mad at it. I respect it. I'm not mad at it.
It's The Rock. I just wanted to say that.
Right now.
I think that's the primary piece here of the. Let's kind of look at the comments though. The GOAT of what? Surely not hip hop. You can't be the GOAT with an L in your portfolio. Goons throw around that GOAT line too casually for me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, in comparison to whom? You know what I mean? Like even if you're talking just music, and I'm not the hugest JayZ fan, but like to deny that JayZ is like a monumental figure is just in music is just kind of, I feel like it's short-sighted. All right, why all the hate on I don't really think this is hate. Again, I think that just comes from a lack of understanding. How the fuck two white boys going to judge who the GOAT in hip hop? Two, he the GOAT because of longevity. Okay, he the best who ever done it. 3, the impact the culture pushed it forward. Being the GOAT doesn't mean fucking lyrical. He opened the doors that wasn't open for rappers. F out of here. Cool, man. State Street 7210. Forbes does not have credible info. Okay. That's the comments. I don't know. We've talked extensively about this. I think the conversation about like, does JayZ's wealth contribute to his GOAT status? You know, we've talked about this even further on the show. We've talked about this kind of recently, actually. I think it goes into the conversation. One of the elements of being, what was the element? It was something about popularity or something like that, or the ability to take it to that next cultural level, you know, to where like you transcend out of hip hop into the pop culture sphere. And I remember that being not necessarily a point of contention, but we talked about that in depth if that should even be a part of the conversation. And to be honest, I think where we kind of left it, I kind of left it personally in a place where I wasn't sure. You know, I feel like there's a little bit of merit there and also not. But I will say that money status has nothing to do with the characterization of art, or maybe better said, it doesn't impact how good a piece of art is, because I will say if you have more money, you have more resources, so you can potentially make better art because you have more resources to make it. So I feel like you should make better art, you know, but that's not always necessarily the case, obviously. But then also, I think if we look at it all across the board now, and I know people would say this is recent bias, but I think Kendrick Lamar has surpassed him on every metric that matters, except for the billionaire status. And I don't think that matters. I don't think wealth means that you're a good artist. I think accumulating wealth, again, to Brad's point, and then I'll kind of kill this, it just means that you're really good at understanding the business, or you have the right people around you to be good at the business of music. And I do think that, you know, there is some overlap sometimes, but one is not mutually exclusive. It's not a mutually exclusive type thing. But yeah, check out New Old Heads, newoldheads.com if you want to become a member. Patreon.com/newoldheads, $5 a month gets you our 2-hour uncut episode. We only release an hour of that. We're actually going to probably stop doing our live stream soon, just because we never promote it and we're not very interactive with it. That was more of a COVID thing. But yeah, get the 2-hour show on Patreon. Support some independent creators if you want to do that. And yeah, till next time. Peace.